Hello everyone. This is the third part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 16, Harvest. Bruce had the marksman skill he got from Hawkeye. And now that Mike got very close to him, it was impossible for him to avoid the knives. But then, Bruce dodged backwards. A doubtful expression on his face. The flying knives collided with Mike's body and a bell-like sound came. It was the sound of sharp objects hitting against iron. The knives fell to the ground without any blood on them. Without stopping, Mike picked the daggers up and attacked Bruce again. He had Hawkeye's super speed skill, so Mike was not his match in that aspect. Mike stood opposite him, unscathed, laughing hideously. "What's wrong?" "Surprised?" Mike said while attacking again. He had never shown this skill, not even S.H.I.E.L.D. knew of it. Seeing that things were going wrong, Bruce displayed his calmness. Instead of panicking, he began to analyze the present situation. The more unfavorable the situation, the more he needed to remain calm. His secret skill must be related to his defense. That was Bruce's best guess, as well as hope. Now, Bruce had the skills super speed, super strength and marksman. He was severely lacking in defensive skills. His defense was no better than an ordinary person's defense. So, Mike's skill, he had to get. In an instant, only their afterimages remained. The two men fought multiple times in an extremely short period of time. And while they fought, Mike's information appeared in front of Bruce. Identity, Level 7 Warrant. Skills, Top-level fighting technique, 200 MB, proficient in firearms, 300 MB, pig iron body, 300 MB. Sure enough, Bruce's guess was right, and the skill was about defense. The skill pig iron body can make the body as hard as pig iron. That was how Mike shook off Bruce's flying knives. But, if the destructive power exceeded the defense of pig iron, the body would still be injured. In any case, Bruce still needed the skill now and immediately decided to download it. Beep, connection successful. Beep, skill pig iron body size 300 MB, downloading. Beep, present speed is 600 kbs/s, valid within 2 meters. With this speed, the download would finish in about 8 minutes. He didn't need to purchase another speed up. Both of them had the skill top-level fighting technique, so they were pretty evenly matched in battle. But Bruce's speed and strength exceeded Mike's by a lot. Bruce, however, was not trying his best. He was stalling for time. As time went by, Mike began to doubt the current situation. He could tell that Bruce was not trying his best. Mike didn't have time to think anymore. He knew it could not go on like this, he had to give it everything he had. First, he had to escape from here. Beep, download complete. Beep, congratulations, you've obtained the skill pig iron body. 8 minutes later, and a familiar voice spoke again, making Bruce very happy. Finally, the download had completed. Mike saw this momentary flaw just as this happened, and hit Bruce with all of his strength. He stabbed in Bruce's direction without hesitation. "Go to hell." Mike laughed inwardly with killing intent in his eyes. When the stab connected, a powerful rebound force shocked him. "How? What just happened?" Mike's face changed dramatically. He found out, to his horror, that Bruce had a similarly powerful defensive ability, just like him. Surprised? Amazed? Go to hell. Just now, the flaw that Bruce intentionally left was only to test his newly acquired skill. And the result made him delighted. While Mike was shocked, Bruce made his move. Under his powerful strength, Mike slowly fell to the ground. Next, Bruce unleashed a flurry of attacks. After a couple of seconds, Bruce beat Mike to death with his bare fists. What a turtle shell! Bruce laughed. The harvest tonight was far beyond his imagination. Not only did he get the skill pig iron body, but he also gained $300,000. Later, he took Mike's body away. The reward department of S.H.I.E.L.D. had no office. If you wanted to get the reward, you only needed to call them and put the person, dead or alive, in the appointed place. Half an hour later, SHIELD agents came. After verifying Mike's identity, they gave $300,000 to Bruce and left. Soon after them, Bruce also left. Everything Bruce did for SHIELD they would put in on record, and save it as proof for Bruce's qualifications in his future promotions. Bruce also wanted to get promoted as soon as possible. The higher, the better. As with this, he could get in touch with more powerful people. The New York War was getting closer. Time passed quickly, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, Bruce did a lot of things. He killed 3 wanted men and his harvest was huge. And tonight, he received a special message. Chapter 17, Spider Crisis. There was a trace of surprise on Bruce's face. The message was from Bill. It was about a woman that Bruce didn't think he'd be hearing about anytime soon. Black Widow, a legend and a level 10 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. According to the information sent by Bill, the sexy beauty would be coming to the Avengers base in 3 days. Never thought that even Black Widow would come. Bruce smiled. The New York War is getting closer. Recently, the big fight in New Mexico caused great concern, but Bruce didn't know the details. If his guess was right though, it should have been the battle between Thor and the Destroyer. Both of them were extremely powerful. That level of fighting was not something that he could participate in. If he went, he would be nothing but cannon fodder. The important thing now was still to improve his strength. And with Black Widow's surprise arrival, he had a perfect opportunity to do just that. Especially the ability that delayed aging. Subsequently, Bruce opened the panel. Identity, Level 5 Agent. Skill, Marksman, Super Speed, Pig Iron Body, Top-Level Fighting Technique, Proficiency in Firearms, Covert Tracking. Ever since he killed Mike, Bruce had not met other wanted men with special skills. So his strength had not increased. However, during this time, he killed several ordinary wanted men and earned 7 or 800,000 USD. He directly put $600,000 in the system. $600,000 can offer him 100 times speed up 6 times. And because of those meritorious services, Zoe had recommended him for a promotion to a level 6 agent. He was just waiting for the audit. After 3 days, I need to go back to the base. He had to get Black Widow's skills if he wanted to progress at a faster rate. Now, the only thing that he needed to figure out was when little Spider-Man would be bitten. He had wanted it to happen sooner rather than later. However, during this half-month, he hadn't gotten closer to Parker at all. Deliberately forcing a relationship tended to make people alert. It would take some time to make little Spider-Man trust him completely. Beep! While Bruce was thinking, he heard his computer go off. He immediately stood up and looked at the red dot on the computer. At this point, the red dot stood in one place and no longer moved. Bruce installed a tracking device on little Spider-Man to prevent any accidents from happening. And the warning sound from the computer indicated that little Spider-Man was currently in danger. Bruce's face changed and he put his clothes on in a hurry. Why was a student in danger? Bruce drove away as fast as he could, trying to reach Parker in time. It was impossible for the computer to be mistaken. Parker was surely in danger. According to his current speed, he would reach Parker in 10 minutes. Although Bruce was anxious, he was not too worried. After all, Spider-Man was one of the leading characters of the Marvel world. It was impossible for him to die so easily. At the same time, somewhere in Queens, in a dimly lit street, Parker fell to the ground, his face swelling up as if he was stung by bees. Several people were standing in front of him with their hands in their pockets, laughing. His skin is so delicate, I want him very much, ha ha ha. One of them said, and the words made Parker tremble from head to toe. He didn't dare look up, for fear of what would happen next. However, by now, Parker had guessed who they were. American streets were not as safe as people said they were. And these men were a group of street thugs. Every country had such people. I have some money, please, let me go. Please, sir. He didn't have his superpowers yet, so he could not fight against these thugs. Money? If you obey us, we can give you some instead. We only want you. Follow us, we can guarantee that no one will dare bully you in the future. Their leader said, his eyes gazing over Parker from time to time, akin to a dog looking at his bone. His gaze frightened Parker. He was just a student and had never been in this type of situation. Parker's eyes were filled with despair. He had never been so eager over power in his entire life. If I could be like Mr. Bruce. Parker thought. Now, he wanted to become a person like Bruce. With enough power, he could solve everything. However, he did not have that kind of power. Ever since he was a child, he had been bullied, and had never been able to retaliate. However, now, he was extremely desperate. At this time, a voice came. It seemed like a bright light at the end of the very dark tunnel. Hey, bullying my student? Have you asked for my permission first? On the dimly lit street, Bruce went over to Parker in his black suit, looking as relaxed as ever. Chapter 18, Saving a Spider. After Bruce spoke, everyone present turned their attention towards him. As for Peter, a slight delight came to his bruised face. Peter cried out, as if seeing his savior arrive. The thugs looked at each other with a slightly dazed expression. This guy looks nice, but I want the boy more. You better go away before we change our minds. The thugs shouted as they moved towards Bruce. They were all tall and sturdy looking, the shortest one being one head taller than Bruce. After a couple of seconds, they approached a couple of steps forward again, looking very aggressive. Bruce saw that Peter looked unharmed and released a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the thugs with displeasure. At the same time, Bruce understood that the thugs were a group of homosexuals. Go away, I don't want to dirty my hands, Bruce looked at them, completely serious. What he said was true. He really didn't want to beat up a couple of thugs. But his words thoroughly angered the thugs. They immediately started shouting at him. Fuck you, what did you say? The leader of the thugs also shouted while glaring at him. Fuck, do it. Shoot him. He thought that surely, Bruce's words were meant to humiliate him. And so, under his orders, the thugs made their move. But they were just a little stronger than ordinary people, their end was destined to be tragic. Be careful, Mr. Bruce. Parker shouted when he saw the thugs making their move. He was not sure if Bruce could beat the thugs, even though he knew that Bruce was powerful. Then, Bruce started his attack, leaving only afterimages behind him. In an instant, 3 bodies hit the ground. Directly after that, Bruce pulled out his dagger and cut their hands off without hesitation. The thugs cried out in agony. They hadn't even seen how Bruce had attacked them. The leader of the thugs looked at his men in horror. What have you done? The thug leader could not believe his eyes. He shuddered when he looked at Bruce, it was as if he was seeing the devil himself. Parker himself felt shocked as well. Strong. Too strong. That was the only thought in Parker's mind right now. Through Bruce's half a month of teaching PE, he knew that Bruce had some fighting skills. But he never imagined that Bruce was so powerful. As for you. Bruce looked at the leader and smiled, cruelty written all over his face. He was the only thug left. As for the others, they had all lost at least one limb. He didn't know what to do, the man in front of him was just like a god of death, and he was coming to collect. Yes, I must escape from here. It was the only thought in his mind right now. Toot. But just as he wanted to escape, a siren sounded. He stopped and looked at Bruce. Ha ha ha, the police is coming. You deliberately wounded people, you're going to jail. The leader laughed and he seemed to have been rescued. His brother worked for the police. No matter how fierce the guy was, could he compete against guns? Go, 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 surround the place, don't let anyone escape. Police officers soon appeared and surrounded the dark street. There were more than 24 policemen armed with guns. What happened? The officer in charge came and looked around coldly. Sir, it's him. He wants to kill us, the thug leader shouted. The officer in charge glanced at Bruce, who was holding a bloody dagger in hand, and said, "Take them all." Bruce just shot the officer a calm look, then threw the dagger away. As for Parker, he stood beside Bruce looking very remorseful. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce, it's all my fault." Bruce shook an head at Parker and said, "Don't blame yourself. Parker was just a high school student right now, a kid. Not some superhero. Hey, I'm warning you, careful what you say." The officer warned Bruce. Bruce glared at the officer. "I'm warning you too, be careful what you say." At that moment, Bruce's body exuded a murderous intent. He had once dealt with some privileged classes. This kind of imposing manner was not something you could fake. This man must not be ordinary. And so, he didn't handcuff Bruce and Parker. If Bruce really had a special identity, then with this action, he still had a chance to remedy the situation. Soon after, Bruce and Parker were taken to the police car. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce." Parker was feeling very guilty. He thought it was his fault that Bruce got involved. Bruce shook his head and looked at Parker. "Peter, what would you do if you had great power?" Parker looked at him, confused. He didn't understand what Bruce meant. But Bruce's face was completely serious. Chapter 19, Great Power and Great Responsibility. Hearing this, Parker stared at Bruce. He felt like he was lost. In reality, he had questioned himself many times about this. If he had power, what would he do? But that was just a fantasy. He was only an ordinary high school student. "Mr. Bruce, I'm not sure yet," Parker replied. It was to be expected. He was an extremely self-conscious boy. Listening to this, Bruce smiled. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Those words rang through his mind like thunder. His parents had died when he was just a child, so he matured earlier than his peers. But who knew of his loneliness? No one had ever spoken to him like this. Unconsciously, in his heart, Bruce became more and more mysterious. But Mr. Bruce, these cops. He was still worried. After all, Bruce had wounded the thugs. Nowadays, the law was strict. Bruce just smiled. He didn't care about the police at all. Seeing Bruce's confidence, Parker calmed down a little. "Come out." At this time, the police car stopped and the policeman spoke. Then they were brought in the police station. Parker was a student, he was still a minor. So he was only detained and not interrogated. But Bruce was different, he was the culprit. The dim lights in the interrogation room flashed from time to time. The environment here was very suppressive. Bruce sat in the chair and closed his eyes. He didn't look like a prisoner at all. "You are accused of intentionally wounding someone and will be imprisoned." Two policemen sat in front of him looking extremely serious. They were confused. Why was Bruce so calm? When he stepped inside the room, it seemed like he was back home. "And then what?" Bruce asked. His answer stunned the two policemen. One of them stood up and slapped the table violently. "This is the police station, not your home." He was angry. Ordinary people would be scared when they saw this scene. But Bruce didn't seem scared at all. "Are you sure this is your last answer?" "Okay. You don't need to say anything." The other policeman was calm. He began to tidy up the papers on the desk, wanting to convict Bruce directly. This time, Bruce opened his eyes. "I am afraid you will not be able to shoulder this if you do it." The two policemen immediately laughed. "Who do you think you are?" "Well, Bruce, right? You are accused of intentionally wounding someone, sign it." One of the policemen took out the documents and placed them in front of Bruce. Bruce smiled and tore apart the documents without hesitation. "You don't have enough evidence, nor did you let me call my defense lawyer, and you want to convict me directly? Are you sure you can do it?" Bruce's cold eyes shocked the two policemen. But they reacted quickly. This was the police station. What were they afraid of? One of them clenched his fist and wanted to hit Bruce. Bruce moved first and slapped him. The policeman fell to the ground. some of his teeth falling and blood splattering all over the floor. Arrogant and overbearing. The other cop was shocked. For attacking a police officer, you will stay in prison for the rest of your life. He shouted loudly and tried to take out his handcuffs to stop Bruce. But at that moment, Bruce took out his work permit. The cop looked at the card, and his face changed slightly. It was not the CIA or the FBI. He seemed to be from a more mysterious government department. He called his superior without hesitation. Soon after, one by one policemen came in, and one of them was the police chief. "Get out, all of you," the police chief ordered. "I am the Queen's police chief of New York." "Sir, what can I help you with?" Although he was only a chief of the local police station, he knew something unknown by ordinary cops because of his rank. For example, SHIELD. Direct subordinate organization of the American President and Congress. Even the CIA and FBI were not as powerful as this organization. "You know who I am, so you should know what I am doing, right?" Bruce looked calm. "Of course, sir." The police chief broke out in a cold sweat. "Good, next, you should know what to do, right?" With that, Bruce left directly. The police chief hastened to keep up. He was just a local cop, he dared not disobey such a man. A member of SHIELD, no matter what level they were at, they were all big shots to him. Chapter 20, Return. "Mr. Bruce, what happened?" Parker, who walked out of the police station, still didn't know what happened. He went in for less than half an hour, wasn't interrogated, and then got released scot-free. He couldn't wrap his head around it. In his mind, a case like this was not something to be shrugged off so easily. But now, Bruce was walking in front of him with his same calm expression. SHIELD was second to none, and its influence extended way beyond the various organizations of America. If it was the FBI, perhaps he would have some trouble, but this was just a local police station. It was the lowest of law enforcement agencies in America. In front of SHIELD, the local police ranks are nothing. The SHIELD director could meet directly with the US president and parliamentarians. It was the real big shot in America. And Bruce was a level 5 agent of SHIELD. In the mind of these policemen, he was a big shot too. So how would they dare find trouble with Bruce? About what happened, don't tell anyone, okay? Bruce looked at Parker and said. He did not want to reveal his identity. "Mr. Bruce, you can trust me." Parker replied, his face showing that he took this matter seriously. Unconsciously, Bruce had become his idol. He wanted to become a person like Bruce too. "Good, you should go home now, your aunt will be worried," Bruce said. Parker nodded, then left with his school bag in hand. This thing was over. Bruce was also preparing to go back home. 3 days later, Black Widow would come to the Avengers base, so he had to be back before that. It was the most important thing for him at present. When he came back home, he immediately sent Blood Mantis a message asking to return to the base. Until now, Parker had not encountered any danger, so Bruce's request passed through smoothly. Next, it was time for waiting. SHIELD had a lot of reward tasks, but not many were in New York. Bruce had his task and he couldn't just leave New York at will. After the last event, Parker trusted Bruce thoroughly. To avoid a similar accident from happening again, Bruce put 3 tracking devices on Parker. The morning after the 3rd day, Bruce had prepared everything. He had already asked for a vacation from the school. According to the information provided by Bill, Black Widow will come to the Avengers base at about 18 o'clock. I have enough time. After cleaning up, Bruce drove away from the residence. 3 hours later, Bruce arrived at the base. After receiving the inspection, Bruce entered the base successfully. Right now, it was 1300 hours. "Hey Bruce, you are back." Just as Bruce went inside the base, Bill's voice came. "Good afternoon, Bill," Bruce replied with a smile. After seeing Bruce, the level 3 and 4 agents around Bill immediately stood up. "Good afternoon, Mr. Bruce." "Sir, welcome back." The lower-level agents greeted him one by one. Even those who once insulted him greeted him. This change was brought to him by his improvement of identity and strength. I heard that you killed many wanted men recently. Mr. Zoe is very satisfied with you, Bill said with an envious expression on his face. The agents in the base all knew about these things. At the same time, they were surprised that Bruce's strength was so powerful, he could even kill level 6 and 7 wanted men. Especially Zoe, he had asked Coulson to promote him to a level 6 agent. As long as Bruce could go on like before, he had the chance to become a level 7 agent. That was where the true leadership was at. In S.H.I.E.L.D. getting a promotion was very tough. Even getting promoted by one level meant a lot. Just the status improvement alone was a huge deal. Just lucky. Bruce smiled. After all, he didn't care. If it was not for the money, he would not do the missions. Luck cannot kill those wanted men. As they were chatting, a voice came from afar. It was Zoe, the famous bloody mantis. Mr. Zoe, Bill stood up. Zoe nodded and looked at Bruce. He was pleased these days because Bruce's performance made him get a commendation from Coulson. Very good, my recommendation has passed, you will be promoted to a level 6 agent after pulling this task off. Bill and company were all surprised. Level 6 agent? In just less than a month? What kind of a promotion speed was that? Chapter 21, The Level 10 Agent Black Widow. All the agents on the scene were envious of Bruce when they heard him. For a level 3 agent to promote a single level would usually take 2 years. Yet Bruce had risen 2 levels in less than a month. This was definitely a miracle. Even Bill didn't know what to say, he seemed to be getting further and further away from his friend. Bruce looked at Zoe and said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Zoe." The higher his level, the more big shots he would be able to get in contact with. Right now, he had become a level 6 agent, which was somewhere in the middle ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, go get ready. A big shot will come soon, ordered Zoe. Almost every agent knew about this already, and they were looking forward to seeing Black Widow with their own eyes. After all, that was a legendary agent on the same level as Hawkeye. And in some ways, even more powerful than him. Although she was only a woman, she was completely ruthless, whether it be in battle or interrogation. She was one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s real trump cards. After officially notifying them, Zoe left to prepare some things. Meanwhile, Bruce's job was still to stay and guard around the security gate. Even though he got promoted, this was a very important job, as it was the only way to enter S.H.I.E.L.D. Time passed by, and at 6 p.m. sharp, everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. was ready to go. Every agent, regardless of their rank, had their own duties and things to take care of. Bruce was standing in the hall with a suit on and a pair of black sunglasses, looking like the epitome of professionalism. Black Widow had a lot of special abilities, and he wanted to download more than one this time. Woo woo woo, at this time, a car parked outside of the Avengers base, with more than 20 jeeps following quickly behind. Phil Coulson came out from the first car and stood by it after taking off his sunglasses. Every agent present was holding their breath while they were looking at the woman who was standing next to Phil Coulson. She was in black tights that revealed her perfect figure, which was ample in all the right places. Her body was the picture of perfection, especially her short red hair, which added a certain uniqueness to her, making her look even more sexy. Bruce's eyes didn't even move. When the woman came out, he merely confirmed it was her. One of the superheroes of the Avengers Alliance, a level 10 agent, the legendary Black Widow. And indeed, just as Bill had said, she was a rare beauty. Almost all the agents had their eyes on her, after all, few men could resist her charm. But Bruce was just indifferent. He knew that the more beautiful things looked, the more dangerous they were. Bruce also knew that the Black Widow in front of him had just made her debut. She had not met Captain America and Iron Man yet. In other words, the Black Widow in front of him was just a rookie in terms of feelings. Black Widow was a rare type of spider. The spider was rumored to be extremely toxic and dangerous. Even spiders that mate with it would be killed. And the woman in front of him was called Black Widow. Her nickname alone was sufficient to explain what type of person he was dealing with. "Natasha, is this your first time here?" Phil Coulson stood on her side and laughed. While Coulson was only a level 7 agent, he was an old friend of Black Widow's. I know that Barton is here, why is he not coming out? Black Widow spoke, and as expected, her voice was very attractive, with a hint of temptation on it. He is carrying out an important task right now and is not on the base, Coulson said, but didn't reveal what the task was. Okay, but calling me out here, what exactly is it that you want me to do, she said, while walking into the base with Coulson. A small task, it should be very simple for you. I heard that you found a funny guy on the bottom of the Arctic. Are you going to introduce me to it? Phil Coulson's face changed, but he masked it before the others could see. The time will come. I really don't know what you're going to do. Natasha shook her head and no longer asked. S.H.I.E.L.D. was like that, even if she was a level 10 agent, she couldn't know all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plans. Nick Fury was an old fox, nobody knew exactly what he was doing. Even the Parliament and the President were not clear on that. Coulson smiled, saying nothing. Nick Fury's plan was getting closer and closer to fruition. Hello sir, please accept my check. At this moment, a voice came, making Natasha and Coulson turn around. It was a level 3 agent that spoke this time. He didn't dare look up at them and he looked very nervous. When Natasha saw this, she frowned. She didn't want to be checked whenever she went in and out. This made her somewhat dissatisfied. It's my duty to do this, miss, please understand. Behind the level 3 agent, Bruce came out with a smile. Coulson looked at Bruce and immediately remembered who he was. Bruce took his hand out and said, "Hello, Bruce Lite, level 6 agent." Natasha looked at Bruce, nodded, and also took her hand out, Natasha Romanoff. When the two hands touched, Black Widow's abilities were clearly presented in front of Bruce. Chapter 22, Downloading. Name, Natasha Romanoff. Identity, Black Widow. Ability, Superb Level Fighting Technique, 400 MB, Agile Body, 800 MB, Strategic Wisdom, 2 GB, Anti-Aging Gene, 30 GB, Proficiency in Firearms, 300 MB. Sure enough, Black Widow had the most needed anti-aging gene ability for Bruce. The ability was beyond humanity's limits, even Hawkeye, or Clint Barton, didn't have it yet. The gene Black Widow had been modified to greatly prolong her life and maintain her youth. What's more, it had powerful antibodies that could withstand most diseases and toxic gases. If he could get this anti-aging gene, he would hardly have to worry about getting sick. This was a very useful ability that Bruce could not pass up on. But this ability had surpassed the limits of humanity, so naturally the data that needed to be downloaded was huge. It far surpassed the amount downloaded from Hawkeye, reaching a staggering 30 gigabytes. After all, while it had no combat potential, an ability that could extend the lifespan of a human was naturally unique and worth more than money could ever buy. Among the human heroes Bruce knew, only Captain America, Black Widow and Nick Fury had this ability. Besides the anti-aging gene, another ability that caught Bruce's eye was the Superb Level Fighting Technique. Although the amount of data was not very large, it was nonetheless a very useful ability for Bruce. As for Strategic Wisdom, it would allow Bruce to have an IQ that was far beyond what ordinary people had. The most distinctive ability that Black Widow had was her Agile Body. It allowed her to make all sorts of incredible movements, and the flexibility provided had reached the limits of the human body. Focus. With all that said, the priority right now was to get Black Widow's anti-aging gene. Bruce made the decision without hesitation. Beep, the connection is successful. Beep, because the host has the top-level fighting technique ability, the size of Superb Level Fighting Technique has dropped to 200 megabits. Beep, the connection is successful. Beep, the anti-aging gene, size 30 gigabytes has started downloading. The current download speed is 800 kbs, valid within 3 meters. With this kind of downloading speed, even if he bought the 100x acceleration, it would still take Bruce more than an hour to fully download the abilities. This kind of download time was too long. After thinking of this, Bruce directly bought a 600x download speed acceleration. The $600,000 he had saved up had vanished in an instant. These were his savings after half a month of hard work. But, in order to improve his strength, he had to do this. Even if it was 600 times faster now, it would still take more than 10 minutes. He had already invested a lot into this, so no matter what, he had to keep Black Widow within a 3-meter range for 10 minutes. After deciding, Bruce let go of her hand. Black Widow smiled at him and was ready to leave. But Bruce stopped her before she could leave and starting making small talk. Black Widow had not rejected, so Coulson said nothing, even though he was surprised by Bruce's actions. The way he saw it, Bruce was totally captivated by Black Widow and could not help himself. Time passed by, but Bruce's eyes remained unchanged. Black Widow's eyes, however, revealed an impatient look. Her instincts told her that Bruce was definitely not captivated by her beauty, so she tried to cut the conversation short. "It was a pleasure talking to you today." "The pleasure is all mine, Natasha. You have your things to do, I won't bother you any longer." Bruce spoke calmly, but inside, he was starting to get anxious. "Faster, faster." Black Widow looked at Bruce with a smile, then went to the security gate. Beep, download complete. Beep, congratulations to the host for obtaining the superb level fighting technique ability. Beep, congratulations to the host on the perfect fusion of anti-aging genes. The sounds from the system came, making Bruce let out a sigh of relief. At last, the download was complete. Taking a glance at Black Widow's back, Bruce shook his head. If he delayed any longer, he would definitely be suspected. This was the Marvel world, no one was simple. "Hey Bruce, she really is sexy, huh?" Bill was standing next to Bruce with a smile on his face. Bruce looked at him and ignored him the very next moment. He had little interest in the Black Widow, and unfortunately, her strategic wisdom ability had not been downloaded. This was also a powerful ability, but sadly he didn't have the time. After his fusion with the anti-aging gene, the only difference he could make out was that his body felt extremely tight. He could even feel that his cells were very active and extremely excited. With the anti-aging gene, his lifespan had been greatly increased. The Bruce right now was beyond a normal human. After feeling all the changes, he opened up his panel. Name, Bruce. Identity, Level 5 Agent. Ability, Marksman, Anti-Aging Gene, Super Speed, Pig Iron Body, Superb Level Fighting Technique, Proficiency in Firearms, Covert Tracking. Balance, 0. A completely new panel. A lot of powerful abilities had been gathered together, and at this moment, Bruce already had the qualifications to proclaim himself as a superhero. The anti-aging gene could also be considered as one of his superpowers. Whether it be Black Widow or Hawkeye, in fact, they were not that outstanding among the other superheroes. They could even be said to be among the weakest of superheroes. It wasn't that Bruce was looking down on them, it was just a fact. It was, however, a pity that the money he had earned over the past half a month was now completely gone. Despite that, his harvest this time was huge, the biggest one yet. With his current strength, he could no longer be considered the cannon fodder that he was when he first started out in this world. Thinking of this, Bruce smiled. He returned to the Avengers base only to download Black Widow's abilities, and now that his goal was fulfilled, he planned on going back. Regardless of whether Parker could get his superpower in this month, he had to complete his task. Next, he went to Zoe's office to report his current mission progress. "Alright, if there is nothing in the next 10 days, come back," Zoe said after confirming the report. Bruce nodded, there were still 10 days left. After he finished his current mission, he would become a level 6 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he would be able to get higher level contracts. After saying goodbye to Zoe, he left his office and walked out of the Avengers base. And half an hour after he left Zoe's office, Coulson stepped out from the dark. Chapter 23, New Plan. "Zoe, how good is this guy?" Coulson leaned on the table as he asked. "Very good, in every possible way. His future is definitely promising and he will definitely become a top-level agent. Right now he can beat Mike, indicating that he may have a level 7 agent strength, and as for his background, I have checked many times and it has checked out every time. Even Zoe didn't know that when he was talking about Bruce, he was smiling all the way through. He was very satisfied with Bruce. Because of Bruce's excellent performance, he had caught the eyes of SHIELD's senior staff. Just a couple of days ago, SHIELD had conducted an in-depth investigation on him, and had found no problems at all. You all know that SHIELD is lacking in manpower right now. There have been too many events recently. Coulson said, clearly troubled by the matter. Okay, and how are you going to handle him? Zoe asked. Listening to this, Coulson smiled, clearly having thought of this beforehand. The one found at the bottom of the Arctic has already awakened. What, so fast? Zoe was somewhat caught off guard and wasn't able to keep his emotions in check. After all, that was a person that had been sleeping for nearly 70 years. This situation had exceeded his scope of understanding, as previously, Zoe had never come in contact with superpowers. Even for Hawkeye and Black Widow, theirs could only be called semi-superpowers. If human beings continued to receive training, it was possible to reach that level. But the one they had found at the bottom of the Arctic was different. He had lived unconscious for more than 70 years, and right now he should be more than 100 years old. And yet, his body function was still maintained, as if it was in its 30s, which was beyond incredible. In the past, he would not believe this at all. However now, he saw the man himself, so he had no choice but to believe what was right in front of him. Zoe was in awe. Because of his improvement in status, the level of his contact and what he could know was getting higher and higher. The current situation was beyond his wildest imaginations. Yeah, he has already awakened. Coulson said, his face full of reverence. With the power Phil Coulson held, he was akin to the SHIELD director's left and right hands. Although he was only a level 8 agent, he had an unusual position in SHIELD. Even if he was dealing with level 9 or level 10 agents, he could also command them. What you mean is? Zoe roughly guessed something. For Coulson to ask for Bruce at this time, it may be because of his great relationship with that man. Although he has woken up, he needs a long time of rest to recover. During this time, I need to adapt him to the current world. It is best to send an agent to protect him. Coulson said. The man's strength was really horrifying, but he had just awakened after all. Some of his physical functions are still not capable yet, so he needed a little bit of protection. Do you want to assign Bruce to this task, sir? Zoe said. Coulson nodded. But before that, I need to know if he is qualified for the job. After all, this was one of SHIELD's secrets. Before everything was on the right track, Coulson didn't want anyone else to know. So, he needed to know Bruce's real strength in advance. Bruce would get promoted to a level 6 agent at the end of his current task, and at the promotion, Coulson would see for himself the extent of Bruce's abilities. Okay, go do your things, the world will not stop just for us. After saying that, Coulson left Zoe's office. Zoe, who was called Bloody Mantis and was a level 7 agent, had some worries in his heart. It was really unusual for so many things to happen so suddenly. Could SHIELD cope? Zoe didn't know, but he still had to go on. Bruce knew nothing of Zoe and Coulson's conversation. At this time, he had just returned to Queens. Strategic wisdom makes my thoughts clearer, and because of the superb level fighting technique, my speed and strength have increased considerably. Bruce was judging his strength in his room. After all, in this world, strength was the most important factor. In particular, he had to be clear about his strength and also have a good understanding of himself. SHIELD was his home, it gave him the special training he needed, and he had also acquired his current equipment from there. After a period of training, Bruce once again thoroughly grasped the power in his body. More and more things have been happening recently, the situation looks very unstable. At this moment, Bruce was lying on the sofa and thinking about all that had happened recently. Of the superheroes he knew, 2 had already appeared. If he didn't guess wrong, SHIELD was already studying the Tesseract, which was a space stone. And Nick Fury, he was definitely collecting a lot of the superheroes' information. He was just waiting for the most suitable time. It seems that I have to hurry up. Bruce made up his mind to speed up the improvement of his strength. After making his mind up, he turned on his computer, and rows of contracts instantly appeared in front of his eyes. Almost all of them for criminals above level 7. They were powerful and some even had special abilities. While they didn't have anything as powerful as the anti-aging gene, it was good enough. Next, he took up 3 contracts. They were all level 8 contracts, and each of their rewards was at least $500,000. All 3 amounted to 1.5 million. If it was in the past, Bruce would not be sure if he could beat those 3, but now that his strength had increased, he was not afraid of those 3 at all. He had no money now, which meant that he would not be able to speed up his next download. If one day he met those powerful superheroes, he would need a lot of money to download their abilities. There were a lot more superheroes that were more powerful than Black Widow. Just the anti-aging gene was 30 GB, then what if he met Thor? Iron Man's invincible armor, and his incomparable brain power? What about Hulk? Even Spider-Man? So, ultimately, Bruce had to move, and he had to move fast. This marks the end of part 3 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.